This is an excellent example of a teacher helping students to take on and understand a very sophisticated
It's
text.
called Seedfolks, and it's by Paul Fleischman. Now, we've been studying immigration and moving in social studies, and this book is actually nice because it relates that topic with what we're going to be reading.
Carol's careful introduction of this work of fiction is essential to comprehension because of the complex structure and mature ideas in it.
On the cover are different races.
Anything else? Jasmine, go ahead.
I think they're connected in some way because the back can also help you along with the cover. Because
You can see that these children have learned how to talk with each other about books.
Look at the pictures on the back.
someone could have something to do with a pumpkin or a locket or something.
These are people who have come from all different places in the world. They have different backgrounds and come from different cultures.
Maybe these things were like very popular in their country or were seen a lot.
Okay, but how would that make them connected?
Maybe it reminds them of someone or something, and it kind of represents something.
Do you see anything in the way that these are related to each other or based on the title?
They were all plants.
A lot of them are.
Yeah.
Lettuce, tomatoes.
There are a lot of plants. And also, what about the title? What do you think Seedfolks means?
Maybe they're.
Nisha?
And it looks like a lot of these were seeds.
Maybe a lot of them are like were some kind of farmer, or they were like gardeners. Or
Okay, turn to page 1. The first chapter is told by one of the characters, and her name is Kim. And there's a picture of her. And as you read this chapter, you can hear Kim's voice as you're reading it. She's telling the story. These are her words. But look at the second chapter. Turn to page 4. Who's telling the story now? Anna. That's what she looks like. She's telling this chapter. And then what do you think you'll find next?
Another person.
Okay, and who do we find?
Wendell.
And do you see the picture of him? So that's what he looks like, and he's telling this story in this chapter. In every chapter, there's a different person telling the story, and you hear that person's voice. And as you're reading, you'll find how each of the characters are related to each other. And that's what you should be thinking about as you're reading. Let's turn to the first chapter again, chapter 1, on page 1. And who's telling the story here? Kim. So look at her picture. Whenever you turn to the new chapter, look at the picture. This is the person who's speaking to you. Try to imagine her in your head as you're reading it. Maddie, can you just read that first paragraph for us?
I stood before our family altar. It was dawn. No one else in the apartment was awake. I stared at my father's photograph, his thin face stern, lips lashed tight, his eyes peering permanently to the right. I was 9 years old and still hoped that perhaps his eyes might move, might notice me.
What's an altar? What's a family altar? What does that mean? Jasmine?
I think it's where people get married.
Okay, that's one kind of like a wedding altar where people get married. Now, what do you think this altar is based on the description here?
It's kind of like a thin thing, kind of like a dresser.
Okay, actually this altar, it's a family altar, and it's basically just, it can just be like a table where they put different things on this altar. So what's on this altar? There's a picture of her father, there's a father's photograph, and if you continue reading, there's some other things on this table, like some candles and other things. Her father has passed away. So this is an altar kind of remembering him, paying tribute to him, giving him respect. Does everyone understand that? So that's one kind of altar. And she's from Vietnam, so in this culture, that's how they might pay respect to someone who has passed away. Okay, any questions about that? As you read, you're going to learn more about Kim and what she has to do with all the other people in this book, all the other people. And they all come from different places, so don't forget that as well. And as you're reading it, think about what we've talked about in social studies, about moving and the kinds of difficulties people might face. You're actually just going to read the first 3, Kim, Anna, and Wendell. And so it's pages 1 through 12. And as you're reading it, think about each person, try to listen for their voice and listen to how they're telling their story and listen for how they're related to each other or connected to each other in some way. Okay? So after you finish reading those first 3 chapters, you're going to write in your reading journal about about the characters and how they're connected to each other. Does everyone understand? Okay. So go ahead and start reading, and when you're done with your reading journal, you can just take your other book and start reading. Okay?
Do you like the illustrations? Yeah, those illustrations are really nice. Okay? Okay, good. Keep reading this. Okay.
Did everyone get a chance to finish the first 3 chapters? Did everyone write? Jason, do you want to just talk a little bit about what you were writing about?
Sure.
Let's just talk about what we thought about the characters and how we saw them as being connected to each other.
All the people live near each other, but they don't all know each other.
Did you want to add something?
Well, in a way, they kind of know each other. They've all seen each other.
How?
For Wendell or something, he's like friends with Anna, and they both see Kim planting seeds.
Well, there's one thing wrong about that. Kim never saw Anna. She only.
Yes, she did. Well, she might have, but
Anna thinks Kim saw her. She doesn't know for sure.
On the back, how we pointed out like the different things and objects on here, me and Maddie, we figured out the 3 that related to the that related to the characters. Kim, she was related to the beans, Anna the binoculars, and Wendell the pitcher because that's how he met Kim, by trying to water her beans. And Kim planted her beans because of her father was a farmer.
As we read more chapters, what do you think is going to continue to happen in this story? What do you think? What are some predictions that you can make?
If there are 12 chapters, there'll probably be like one of these pictures on the back of the book will probably be in one of them, one of the rest of them.
You're probably right. And we can continue looking at the pictures and how they're related to the people in this story. But based on the first 3 chapters, what do you think will continue to happen as we hear from different characters in the story? Jasmine?
They'll continue to meet each other. Like someone will be planting something or taking out trash or whatever and meet another person, and then the list will go on and on and on, and the person will introduce that person to another one.
Do you have any more ideas about the title?
I think that they're just all gonna meet each other because of maybe seeds.
Misha, what do you think?
I agree with Maddie because I think that they're gonna get to know each other, from somebody's planting seeds and the other person comes up to him.
That vacant lot that Kim was talking about. I think that all the people in the book, all the people that are telling the story will meet each other, and they'll turn that vacant lot into a big garden.
Did the first 3 chapters make you think about anything else unrelated to the garden?
Yeah, because I would show him that I was his daughter. Like that's kind of feels like the end of this chapter, and I just really, at that point, I wondered what was going to happen next. I mean, why would she want to show him that she was his daughter? And
When you said that you didn't understand why she wanted him to know that she was his daughter, was because she was born 8 months after he died, and when other people, like her mother and her older sisters, cried about him, they knew who he was, and but she didn't, so she couldn't cry about anything or anybody that she didn't know. But the only thing that she knew was that he liked to plant and all of that. So so she wanted to show him that she had his ability and she could do what he did.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because even though we're thinking about how all of these characters from all these different backgrounds and places around the world are connected to each other, they're also stories in each chapter about each character, separate from all of the other characters and what's going on in each person's life.
Even though they're all connected in some way, they're also very different otherwise.
Exactly.
He said that him and Anna are the only two white people left. I didn't really get in Anna's story when it said how all of her family and all of the white people left as soon as like the other countries and places started coming in. I didn't get why.
I think I may know. Because I think that when the other countries came in to that kind of apartment thing, that her family and friends, they might have felt uncomfortable around other races.
I don't agree with Maddie. I think during Anna's story, it said how that the apartment building in that neighborhood was just for like a place for kind of like a hotel until they had enough money and they were able to move somewhere else and get a decent job. So like probably just it happened to be a coincidence that around the time when the people got enough money and they were able to leave and find better jobs and stuff, other cultures and races came in.
As we continue reading about the different people in this neighborhood, there's some things that bring them together and connect them in some way. Okay, great job.